for the whole panel. If you speak to people involved in setting policy in the new administration, their argument is they do want to raise human rights issues, but they believe they're best raised one-on-one in private meetings in an effort to allow the Chinese Communist Party officials to save face, in essence, to not be embarrassed publicly, that they respond better to a private one-on-one setting as opposed to public denunciations of the kind that we're conducting here today. The flip side of it is I know that one of the arguments oppressors make, not just in China, but all over the world, to the oppressed is nobody cares about you. Everyone's forgotten about you. You might as well give up because you know, you're just not important enough, and you know, the United States is not going to break or harm their relations with us because of your case. What is your view on, number one, the idea that somehow human rights are best raised with the Chinese officials privately versus the sort of more open, more open highlighting of these cases for the world to see? And second, is what we do here, irrespective of the administration, is what we do here, whether it's on this commission, on the Senate floor, on the House floor, in our letters, in our resolutions, does it matter? Does it make a difference? I certainly know they read it in the Chinese government because I know they get upset about it. But what about to the activists and to those who, what impact does it have? Because it's important for our colleagues sometimes to understand the impact that what we do here is not simply symbolic, and if it is, I want to know that too, obviously. So two separate questions. Is there the view of the private versus public? And second, what about our role here in Congress, and when we have meetings on this commission or make statements or do resolutions, does that have an impact? Does that matter? And if you want to go first, Mr. Halliday.
I cannot say what kind of efficacy there is in private interventions, but it is a very common point made by the Chinese government and by others that such relationships should be private. However, in my empirical research and the work of our team, speaking to many activist lawyers over a period of time, there is absolutely no doubt in their mind that China must be spoken to publicly and China must be publicly shamed. And at this moment, from our long-standing research, I have no doubt that when the world speaks out loud and publicly, China listens. China has a very thin skin. When the American Bar Association awarded its International Human Rights Prize to Wang Yu, within 48 hours, the Global Times had an editorial trying to rebut that move. That tells me that not only was China listening, but China felt it had to respond. And finally, the point that you made, Mr. Chairman, is that in our interviews with notable activists, time and again, they have said that when there is public calling for their release or public calling for news about them, their treatment is improved. They can perceptibly point to the day or the week or the month when their treatment changes, when the international community has turned the spotlight publicly on their plight.